how do we take decisions in reality? What do you think?
Based on experience, based on whatever we predict.
Assumptions, right?
Yeah.
Based on the level,
Experience, assumption.
judgment, experience, or gut feeling, yes, no, maybe, right? Or assumptions, or position in the organization. Manager will take the decision. Supervisor will take the decision.
I used to hear that जो couple of years back. अभी तुम लोग आके हमको सिखाओगे कि ये कैसे करते हैं.
हाँ, that is because of this position in the organization, right? They will tell you that follow me. Don't run your head, or don't try your way. Go with what I say.
Actually, it is basically both the case. Experience as well as position. Generally.
Right. So what about it? How accurately you take decision based on this ways of taking decision? Is it always right, or it may go wrong somewhere? You also have taken some decision based on experience or judgment or gut feeling or assumption, right? Are they all the time? Are they right on target, or have you faced any issues with that? Any failure with that?
Yeah, it happens.
Right, it happens. So
sometimes it
not it is not that risky, but sometimes it is very risky. It is very impacting a bottom line of your organization. Let's say you are working on an improvement project, and as one of the decision from your experience or assumption, you might say that we need to change the certain part of machine to get that result, and the machine cost is, let's say, 50 lakh rupees. So what you do is, based on your experience and assumption, you get that machine, you install it, you take some parts from that machine, make a production, and you see the result are same to the previous machine. Results are not different. So that decision will actually cost you 50 lakh rupees with lot of efforts and lot of time, but no result. So in some cases it might go wrong. In some cases it may not be that impactful. But of course, taking decision based on these things is not advisable as long as we are working in an organization, as long as we know the data, right? So we normally avoid this thing in real life while taking decision. We used to take decision based on data, based on facts, right? How much improvement we are going to see with that new machine? Do we have any database? Do we have any evidence for that? So collect data, take some or do some analysis, collect some evidences, and based on that take the decision. So that is the overall base for this hypothesis testing. Instead of taking decision based on these things, we take the decision based on facts and data. And let's talk about the terminology behind this hypothesis testing. Okay, let's say we are 6, including me, we are 7 in the room. Okay, and let's say we all are in a class of 10th. Okay, we all are in HSC exam. We all are preparing for HSC exam or SSC exam, 10th or 12th. And in one of our pre-test, internal test, we got, let's say, 80 marks. We got 80 marks out of 100. We all got 80 marks out of 100. Okay, in internal assessment. And everyone will not get 80 marks, right? Our average is 80 marks. So some of us might get 60 marks. Some of us might get 100 marks out of 100. But the average is 80. So the distribution will look something like this. Right? For the distribution of our marks, internal examination mark, right? Average is at 80. Now, after this examination, we have new teacher. We have new teacher who is teaching us this subject in a different way. And that is actually impacting the way we are learning. That is actually impacting the way we are getting scores, we are getting marks. And I want to see the impact of this new teacher. I am a principal of the college. I want to see the impact of this new teacher, whether it is really helpful for them or not. So what I do is, I collect some random students from this class of 10th, and I let them sit for the exam. So I collect the samples from the students. I collect some students as a sample. I let them sit for the exam, and then I take their averages. Then I take their marks. And now the marks that I'm getting, average marks that I'm getting for the students is different. Let's say the marks that I'm getting as an average is 90. Okay, so everyone will not get 90. Some of them will get 80. Some of them will get 100. Right? So the distribution will be something like this, with the center at 90. Right? So what conclusion we can make from this little example? Can we say that the student marks are actually improved, or can we say that it is not improved? What conclusion we can make basically?
In a basic condition, we can say it is improved.
Okay. So what will happen? Let's say this is not my new distribution. I'll draw one more distribution over these graphs with the different color, of course. Let's say this is my new distribution, which is slightly different than that, and still I'm getting 90 marks. What do you think now? The 90 marks that I'm getting is because of the sample that I'm collecting from a class, right? I'm not allowing all the students to sit for the exam. Practically, it is not possible for me. So I'm just taking some random samples. I'm allowing them to sit for the exam, and then I'm taking average. So as a result of that sample, I'm getting 90 marks. So there are like two possibilities, only two possibilities. The first is it might be a sampling error. Right? It might be a sampling error, or it might be actually improved. Right? It might be actually improved. Sampling error means because of some luck, I got the students which are on higher end, right? Randomly, I selected the students which are all good in their exam already before even that teacher has came. So the sampling error is actually giving me 90, but in fact, if I take another sample, there is a chance that I might get 70, which is again the part of this original distribution. I might get 80. So no similar, no different, it is same, or it is actually improved. This 90 is actually part of this new distribution, this blue distribution. And there can be only two possibilities, but how can we find out whether it is a part of old distribution or it is entirely a new distribution? How can we differentiate that? There are 2-3 ways to deal with this kind of issue, deal with this kind of problems. The first thing that you can do is increase your sample size, right? Increase your sample size. So let's say earlier you have taken 10 students. Now go and take 30 students and see their average. Allow them to sit for the exam and see their average. You might get 80, you might get 70. That will give you better picture whether it is actually improved or not. So increasing sample size is one way.
Or decrease means the measurement, means finer the measurement.
How we do that?
Maybe the measurement is, it can be means 61, 62. We can improve the measurement system.
No, that will actually not help us in finding out whether it is part of old population or new population. With increase of sample size, we get more confidence on the marks. Another way to do this is take a new sample, different sample. New sample means earlier you have taken 10 students. Now ignore these 10 students and go and take another 10 students which are different and randomly select that another 10 students. This time you might get 10 students which are from this age, this side, right? Again, the game of probability. You might get, you might not get. So take new sample, entirely new sample. And third way of doing it is to calculate that random chance probability. Calculate that random chance probability. That what is the probability that this 90 is part of old population or new population. Now these two options are of course there in every decision, but this comes with cost. This comes with time, right? To take additional sample, we need to invest additional time, additional cost. Again, to take new sample, additional time, additional cost. So not preferable. So how can we do with the same data? How can we do that? How can we take the decision with the same data points? So for that purpose, we need to calculate something called as a probability at which we'll be able to take the decision. And that is nothing but hypothesis testing. We calculate that random chance probability which differentiate these two populations, whether it is part of old or new. That is main essence of doing this hypothesis testing. Right? This is called as p-value, calculating that random chance probability. Okay, so p-value is basically right. This is main basic. I hope you understand this.
Yes. Okay, you guys, just I'm correlating my thought. Correct me if I'm wrong. If the p-value is higher in that particular test which you are going to see, that 1p or 2p test, the higher the p-value, that means the mean of my second sample is lying in confidence interval of first sample.
Right, perfect.
Correct.
In sample same, that mean is remains same, so there is no improvement.
Right, that is the main essence of p-value. Let's say this is my p-value. Okay, this p-value is associated with 90 score, right? And there is another population which I want to be proved, or I am assuming that this might get proved. So this is, we call it as an alternate hypothesis. I am assuming, or I want to prove that this 90 is actually part of this new population. So the extent to which this 90 is away from your original mean is defining your probability. So the lower is the probability, the farther away it is from the mean, and higher is the probability, the further closer it is to the mean line. That is why we say p low, when p is less than 0.05, will reject null, and we go with this alternate. That means it is actually part of this, right? So it is going far away from the mean. That means it is going towards new distribution. It is giving me more confidence to talk about new distribution. Clear?
In a simple language, Hardik, when we accept alternative, either process has improved or decreased, improved or decreased.
There is a change.
There is a change. It can be either on positive side, negative side, or there is a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference, not equal.
So that is what p-value is. We just find out that random chance probability, how far it is from the mean, of course, by using the formulas. So we don't have to go with another sample size or increasing the sample size, nothing. Okay, and based on p-value, if it is smaller than alpha, we would be rejecting the null, right? We reject the null when it is smaller than alpha, and alpha usually what we consider is 0.05, same value that we consider here. It again depends on the industry that you are working into and the severity of your test, risk factor that is involved. In pharmaceutical industries, if you are testing the impact of medicine on someone's death, then you probably go with 99.9% confidence or 99% confidence. So in that case, you don't go with 0.05. You need alpha of 0.01 in that case. If it is less than this, then only you will be able to accept. Otherwise, you will reject that. So it usually depends on the scenario, but normally we go with 95%. And this is what we say: p-value low, null go; p-value high, null fly. We'll fail to reject the null when p is high. Right? Easy to remember: p low, null go; p high, null fly.